In today's video, I want to show you how I use a host of Elgato streaming gear to be more productive at work. I'll be comparing some of their classic streamer focused products with their new, less expensive Neo range, which is aimed at people who work from home. I bought most of the products in this video with my own money and I've been using them for over 2 years. However, the Neo range along with the Elgato prompter have been sent out to me by Elgato for review. But that's for a little later on. Let's start with my biggest productivity cheat code, the Stream Deck. The Stream Deck is a macro pad with a range of customizable LCD keys that you can program to perform actions on your computer or control smart devices connected to your Wi-Fi network. This particular model is the Stream Deck Mark II. It houses 15 keys in a 3x5 layout, but there are loads of options available depending on your needs. Unlike something like Apple's shortcuts, you don't have to learn an entire scripting framework just to set up some simple commands. And Elgato has its very own marketplace where it sells all kinds of plugins that allow you to make better use of your favorite programs and devices. Depending on how easy it is to automate aspects of your work, your mileage with the Stream Deck will vary. I've used it in several different roles and found the use cases to be very different for each one. But in my current setup, I basically use it as being quick reference for some important information. For example, I've got international time zones on there so I can keep up with colleagues who are working abroad. Because I work on 2 big projects, I've got dedicated stopwatches for each so that I can accurately track how much time I'm spending on them throughout the day. And I even have a little YouTube ticker that pops up with a notification every time one of my favorite creators releases a video. If you ever find yourself having to copy and paste the same text over and over again, the Stream Deck can also be a massive quality of life improvement. And actually one of the big ways I use the Stream Deck is I have a bank of all my favorite Excel formulas so that I can just whack them into a cell with the push of a button instead of having to remember what every single parameter relates to. And one thing I really love about it is this swappable faceplate, which just adds a pop of character to my desk setup. But if you don't really care about that and you think you can get away with having less keys on the panel at any one time, then the Elgato Stream Deck Neo is really worth looking at for a slightly cheaper price. In practice, it doesn't really matter that this version only comes with 8 LCD buttons because there are also 2 touch navigation points which will allow you to skim between different profiles. And so as I was testing the Stream Deck Neo, I found myself setting up different profiles for the programs I most commonly use. The one that I use the most is dedicated to Google Docs, and I've got all my text formatting shortcuts saved as different button presses, so I can add in titles as I'm going down my doc and do things like change text size and add in line breaks without having to try and remember all of those keyboard shortcuts. I mean, they're not particularly difficult, but one which does require, I think, 4 keys is bringing up the change history of a document. So just having that saved as one button is really useful if you're working in a collaborative setting. Another really nice benefit of the Neo is that you get this little bar at the bottom, and that actually saves a button anyway compared to my original Stream Deck setup. And although it doesn't come with those swappable faceplates, it is a really nice design that's going to look very neat on any desk setup, and you actually get more stand options compared to the Stream Deck Mark II. So this one has a nice little adjustable stand at the back with different height settings depending on what's more comfortable for you. The Stream Deck Neo retails at around £50 or dollars less than the Stream Deck Mark II. So I actually think that it's a really good option, and you should only really go for the Stream Deck Mark II if you think you're going to have to need access to more buttons on the screen at once and really care about being able to customize the appearance. Of course, one of the real big benefits of the Stream Deck is that it kind of acts as this central hub that controls all of your smart devices around the room. That can also include lighting from Philips Hue, but in my particular case, I've got an entire setup. It might be something that's easy to overlook, but lighting is so essential for high productivity and your overall sense of well-being. I personally suffer from seasonal affective disorder, so every time that we go through these really gloomy spells in like January and February here in the UK, I start to feel myself getting really down all the time. And anything I can do to try and trick myself into thinking it's a really bright day is definitely worth it. Mostly just have my Elgato lights set to a fairly neutral temperature, but it is also really cool to be able to dial that back down to a more warmer tone when I just want to have a relaxed evening, or try out something a bit more colourful if I'm going for a more immersive film or gaming experience. Good lighting is also a brilliant way of making a fairly average webcam look like a really high professional one, which can be very useful if you are someone who does a lot of pitches or presentations at work. And for someone like me who just wants good lighting in the room and doesn't have thousands of pounds to throw on a massive aperture lighting rig, the Elgato ecosystem is just fine for what I need to do. I do actually have Philips Hue lighting elsewhere in the house too, but the reason that I've migrated to an entirely Elgato setup in this room is because it's flicker free. That's basically because of the way the refresh rate of the LEDs interact with the frame rate of the camera. I found previously when I was using my old Philips Hue light strips, they would really create this flickering sensation whenever I was editing the video, and since moving to the Elgato lights, I've never seen that issue. If you look at something like the Keylight Air or the Keylight Mini, you'll notice that they have these edge lit LEDs, and that also helps to keep you cool and is really kind on your eyes compared to other ring lights that I've used in the past. Whenever I'm editing these videos, I notice how much I blink, but trust me, that's more to do with the fact that I've got a 2-year-old than I've got any lights shining in my eyes. This light strip that I've got behind me is also from Elgato, and they recently sent me out a Lightstrip Pro, which is their new and improved version of the light strip. And it really is a lot better without having increased the price by all that much at all. These light strips are really good for setting the scene. They cover whites to warm light settings, but they also have an RGB spectrum, so you can pick out really vibrant colours that can just make your room come alive. And the cool thing about them is that they are actually cuttable, and they all come with this adhesive underbelly, which means that you can stick them onto furniture around your house, behind the back of your desk, onto the wall. It does, however, come off quite easily, so that's the reason that this particular light strip is wrapped around underneath my table, because I kind of like interfered with it a bit too much and now it just won't stick to the furniture anymore. One of the really cool upgrades with the Lightstrip Pro is that it comes with a magnetic battery pack. That can come in really handy, especially if you've got a metal desk frame, but it also has many more LEDs than the previous Lightstrip, and these are all individually addressable, which means you can make dynamic scenes, and you can even use AI scenes to generate a different color palette that might suit a particular mood or vibe that you're trying to recreate. To demonstrate how well this works, I actually prompted it to give me an Anfield setting, like Liverpool Football Club stadium, and it came back with the club colours, red, white and green, and I was really impressed that this AI integration could pick up something that was so specific and deliver the appropriate colour palette. The Keylight Mini is probably still my favourite light though, just because it's got some physical controls on it. I can mount it onto a tripod and use it to light products that I'm trying to photograph, and it's also really handy to stick on top of a camera or behind my computer to make sure that I've got good lighting on my face before I go into a call. And if you do find yourself in calls a lot at work, then it can pay to get yourself a decent webcam. Elgato have now come out with the Facecam Neo, which is a really compact plug-and-play webcam. Honestly, part of the reason that I recently upgraded to the studio display was because I find webcams to be fairly unsightly in a desk setup, but I do appreciate that if you are somebody who is pitching or presenting a lot in a remote setting, then getting a webcam that really does you justice is going to be important. For that use case, you can't really go wrong with this webcam, and it actually looks pretty nice as well. It's not going to be an eyesore on top of your computer. It runs in 1080p at 60 frames per second, which is going to be more than enough for most use cases. Alongside that, it's got a 26mm lens with autofocus and a CMOS sensor. So that means it's going to be able to bring your face to the forefront of an image and blur out the background. It also isn't giving you such a wide angle that you'll see all the mess in the corner of the room. It's going to make your office look nice and neat and tidy and just give off a much more professional vibe. It's also got one of the nicest privacy shutters that I've seen on a webcam, so it's unobtrusive in terms of its design and also in practice. One of the big things I've learned in content creation though is it's actually much more important to have solid audio quality than worry too much about the image, and that's going to be especially true working in a remote job where the only interaction you have with your colleagues is through a microphone. Think about how much vocal expression can add to your gravitas, your sense of authority. You really want to get a microphone that captures the true spectrum and range of your voice, and Elgato are brilliant in the world of microphones as well. I've been using the Elgato Wave 3 microphone for over 2 years now. Honestly, it's completely overpowered for the main way that I use it. It has loads of features like toggles on the microphone itself to alter the input or output volumes. It has a clip guard, which means it's going to try and limit sudden increases in volume. And although I'm not quite sure it really delivers a broadcast grade quality like Elgato say it does on the website, it definitely is a really high quality microphone that I have enjoyed using for voiceovers on things like my YouTube shorts. Elgato have also released the Wave Neo, which is the budget version of this microphone range. And I'm just going to let you listen to the sound test that I ran because honestly, this thing is impressive. Last summer, we took 3s across the board, but by fall, we were a cover story now in stores. Make us poster boys for your scene. But we're not making an acceptance speech. I found the safest place to keep all our old mistakes. Every .com's refreshing for a journal update. I can take your problems away with a nod and a wave of my hand, 'cause that's just the kind of boy I am. The only thing I haven't done yet is die, and it's me and my +1 at the afterlife. Crowds are won and lost and won again, but our hearts beat for the diehards. Last summer we took 3s across the board, but by fall we were a cover story, now in stores. Make us poster boys for your scene, but we're not making an acceptance speech. I found the safest place to keep all our old mistakes. Every .com's refreshing for a journal update. I can take your problems away with a nod and a wave of the hand, 'cause that's just the kind of boy that I am. The only thing I haven't done yet is die, and it's me and my +1 at the afterlife. Crowds are won and lost and won again, but our hearts beat for the diehards. Look, I'm no audio engineer, but to me, both of those microphones sound pretty identical. And that's amazing considering how much cheaper this microphone is compared to the Wave 3. There are, of course, drawbacks to it. The biggest thing that I absolutely hate, and maybe I'm just doing completely wrong, is the fact that it comes with 2 height settings on this stand, but the way that the top section mounts onto the bottom half of the stand means that if you pick up the stand in the wrong way, the whole thing is just going to fall off, and I've done that a few times as I was trying to set up this microphone. It doesn't have as many of those manual controls. You can still mute by touching the little LED light, which is a really nice option for a physical mute switch whenever you're on a call. But honestly, if all you want is a really nice sounding microphone that's going to stand quite close to your mouth to give the best audio reproduction, and you are not going to be worrying about all of those features that the Elgato Wave 3 has, then absolutely go for this option. I think the really cool thing about the Elgato Neo lineup as well is that it all comes together in one design aesthetic and can look really nice and beautiful on any desk setup. I feel like if you are the sort of person who has an iMac, then this is just going to go really well with that whole design language and look really neat on your desk. It feels like Elgato have brought all of their experience from working with streamers, stripped out all the excess, and just brought the essential core services that will make a normal person's desk job a lot more manageable and enjoyable. Some of the savings make much more sense than others. For example, with this Stream Deck, I do think it makes sense. Also with the microphone, absolutely get the Neo one. But I think the key saving here is actually if you're going to buy several of these products and have them in one setup, all of a sudden those £50 and £20 savings are going to add up to be the price of an entire device, and that is actually what's really cool about this range. Thanks again to Elgato for sending out these products. There are a couple of others they sent which didn't make it into the video, and I will probably be covering them in future videos, so definitely subscribe if you want to see more of that. But thanks so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in a bit.